Hey everybody, welcome to the show. This is Rayzor. You may know me from the Horror Syndicate. If not, then you don't know me. Uh, Seth and I, we both run the Horror Syndicate Horror Movie Massacre podcast live show every Wednesday, and we decided to talk some DC Tomorrowverse movies, since there's going to be about nine. Well, I guess it would be 10 of them when it's all said and done, since James Gunn's DCU will be starting at the tail end of, I guess, the third. Seth says there's going to be three movies for Crisis on Infinite Earths. So we're going to go ahead and do a three-part episode on this channel, Rage of Razor / Retro Outsider, for the Facebook crowd. And we're gonna first episode we're gonna call cover Superman, Man of Tomorrow, Justice Society, World War II, and Batman: The Long Halloween, which is two movies, but really it should have just been one anyway. Why, I don't know why they can't just let it go. It's 2.5 hours long. So I'll bring Seth in, and we're just gonna talk for a little bit about some superhero movies, animated movies, I should say. And if you like what you see, please hit the subscribe button, like the Facebook page, all that good stuff. Again, this is what we're talking about. These three movies, or four, if you want to split those two up. Uh, but yeah. Anyway, here's Seth. All right, Seth. So here we are finally
All right.
back doing some geekery talking. Since we probably should have went ahead and done one of the other Superman movies, since we started doing that in like 2020. But here
Yeah, I know, right?
we'll talk about these movies for now. Before we get into it, I want to know. So I'm not completely caught up. I'm going to get caught up as we go, which I think the next one in line is Green Lantern for me. Um, but and then the Legion of Superheroes, which I've never been a fan of Legion of Superheroes at all. So I'm not really looking forward to that one. And I have heard to really keep my any enthusiasm I might have towards the War World movie, keep it at bay. Don't get too excited about it. So,
Yeah.
but I want to know, you've seen them all, I believe. What are your overall feelings of these seven movies so far?
I like them for the most part. There's a couple that are pretty weak. Uh, Warworld is not great. I think it's got a decent setup for the Crisis trilogy that's going to be coming
Oh,
out,
okay.
but Warworld was pretty weak. Um, the Legion of Superheroes movie wasn't too bad. It's actually more of a Supergirl movie than anything. It's just
Okay.
goes into she goes into the future,
Yeah. I mean,
but
she does that
it's more
numerous
about her.
times. So,
Yeah, it's more about her and Brainiac 5. Um,
of course.
so that's not too bad. I think the thing with because I got so used to like the previous run, the New 52 run, which
Hmm.
there's what like 16 of those movies,
Yeah. Something like that.
and they really kind of fleshed out the overall story and all that. Whereas I feel like the Tomorrowverse may have been compromised, of course, because of the whole thing with James Gunn taking over and wanting everything to connect from live action to animated. So I kind of feel like they kind of they're rushing through the Tomorrowverse because it's not nearly as well developed as a series like the previous the new 52 the new
Hmm.
52 run. um, and you'll see where it's like they skip over certain things. People are there's characters that are just suddenly introduced into another one that weren't previously established. um, so yeah, there's that, but I mean, I think overall I do like them. um, it took me a little bit to get used to the new animation, um, but it's kind of grown on me.
If there's so the one of the problems for me with going back to the New 52, which I believe we're going to have to do those too, because I love those movies just like you
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
But one of the problems is I don't know that they had a plan starting out, because they did they did your um not your but Flashpoint, the
Yeah,
Flashpoint Paradox movie, and then they did Justice League. I think War was
War. Yeah,
what they called it,
yeah,
which I think was the name of the comic, if I remember correctly. But yeah, they went straight into that, and they don't really connect. Which I mean, Flashpoint and the New 52 and the comics, they did connect. So the animation's like completely different. Like I do prefer the animation in Justice League War versus Flashpoint because Thomas Wayne looks ridiculous in Flashpoint,
yeah.
in my opinion. But one of the big problems that I'm trying to get to in my long-winded approach is that they would release these other movies, in between rather than having. I just think they started releasing. I don't know if they had a plan or not, but like they front loaded with Batman movies, and then of course you had movies like Arkham Assault on Arkham, uh, Superman Unbound should have been a part of this, in my opinion, because that's a great story. It's not part of the New 52, but it would have been good as a part of this. But Gotham by Gaslight, I mean, these are good, and The Killing Joke, they were good movies for the most part, but they were releasing them in the middle of all this, so I don't think they had a plan moving like early. I just wish they would have had a better plan and would have spaced it out more. Because I think, what did we even get a Superman movie other than the death of Superman?
No, there was only the Death and the Rain. It was
Yeah, I
a
mean, they could have released three animated movies a year and planned like an actual shared universe, and it would have been what we DC fans have been like thirsting after. And I feel like they may have started doing that with this, and then of course with James Gunn, even though the Man of Tomorrow came out in 2020, kind of ruined everything. I say ruined because I don't like what his plan is. I think that's stupid. Keep animation separate. Who cares? You know, I
yeah,
don't think the
yeah.
animated movies should be glued to what they're doing because it's just the Marvel situations. Like they can have animated projects that are a part of this, like What If, but they don't need. Not, it doesn't have to be like What If, but they don't need to have these animated movies as a part of the DCU because the average person is not going to watch animated movies like we do. So I think it's dumb. I think it's a fool's errand. I hope he changes it because I would like them to have like an interconnecting uh, DC animated universe. And really, I wish it was just built off the bones of the old Justice League show that I hope you are starting to watch.
I've actually, well, I was going to, but then I was like, I'm gonna rewatch Superman the animated series first.
But
So I'm
hey,
going through that.
good idea. Good call.
Yeah,
No
yeah,
problems there.
yeah.
But anyway, so I saw. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, like, uh, just a couple things on your points there. I definitely get what you're saying about like the new 52 and certain things not connecting, and them being Batman heavy at first
Hmm.
and all that. But I think they did a. I think generally speaking, like they all kind of connect fairly well. Besides Flashpoint, I view Flashpoint as sort of like the Hobbit, I suppose, of the new 52 run. It was sort of like the catalyst story. Um, and then also, I completely agree with you about the whole James Gunn thing because DC has been killing it with their animation for how long now?
Since
I
2006,
mean,
I
since the
think.
90s.
Well, oh yeah, if you want to go back to
Well, I mean, yeah,
1992
but
with
I
the
mean,
animated series, but yeah, the first
yeah,
DC animated
yeah.
film that
So
was
like
farthest was
I
2007. Go ahead.
yeah. So like I wish that they kept them separate. You know,
Yeah.
separate. You know, keep the
Well,
just keep doing what they're doing with the animated stuff because I can't say for sure that James Gunn's the reason why Tomorrowverse is practically over already, but it just seems like it.
so Marvel is changing everything, and like these TV shows that they've been doing and everything like that. Maybe James Gunn will see that and be like, okay, let's not follow what they're doing. Let's just make some good interconnecting movies that can also be standalone movies, which Marvel did not do. Because if you watch the Captain America trilogy, it's not a trilogy. It's not. They're filler movies, and Civil War.
No,
You can quote me on day all day on this is Avengers 3. It is. So I think that
it is Avengers 3. Yeah, yeah,
right, and we're going to talk about those at some point as well. If we can do this on a fairly regular basis, I'd like to talk about the MCU movies at some point. But yeah, I
I'd be down
I,
for
I
that.
prefer to keep the animated side away, and he can do animated stuff and make it say DCU animated feature, DC, whatever. But you know, the Tomorrowverse, which we're going to start talking about in a second, got off to a good start. I thought, because I remember seeing the first movie thinking, "Wow,
Yeah.
this was a good way to launch a new film franchise with Superman."
Hmm.
And it's a shame because now they're just kind of rushing to the finish line, which is Crisis on Infinite Earths. One thing I will say with all of this since 2007, which we're going into year 17, I guess, of it, we've gotten to see some favorite comics come to life somewhat, which has been like Batman, Hush, Superman, The Reign of the Supermen, and Death of Superman, The Long Halloween, now Crisis on Infinite Earths, which I'm glad they're making it 3 movies. They're doing pretty much 90-minute movies, so it could be like a 4.5 hour event, which is kind of cool. Um,
Yeah,
but I'm glad we're seeing some of these, but I don't think they're doing that great of a job adapting them. Unfortunately, that's my opinion. Hush was awful. So, what did you think of Hush?
Yeah. Hush was very disappointing because I loved the Hush comic.
Yeah,
It was
and that's what
disappointing.
that's
Like
this is.
because I remember, and he like I'm sorry, I was gonna say when Hush the comic came out, I was getting them like
Yeah, yeah,
all
yeah.
12 issues. Like as soon as they were at the store where I got my comic, I was
Oh
there.
yeah,
I loved Hush, and then the and I think they've had that kind of problem though with adapting for a while because they sort of like they cherry pick certain stories. I remember the very first Superman Doomsday movie, animated movie, not
hmm
being very good because it was barely that story at all,
yeah,
you know. And then I was super excited for that two-parter from the New 52 run, and I was severely disappointed because like Reign of the Superman, as you know, is my favorite comic book arc,
yeah,
and I was a little disappointed how they handled
yeah. I don't think the Death of Superman, needed to be a full movie. They kind of meandered for 90 minutes or an hour or whatever it was, hour and 15 minutes. But and then Reign of the Superman was truncated so bad, and the thing about Hush, real fast, I want to get to talking about the Man of Tomorrow movie. The thing about Hush that bugs me is the emotional reveal. Hush is Jason Todd. Spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't read the comic. That was not there, and they didn't set that up in this universe. Damian was already Robin, which is fine. I like Damian, but did we even get to meet Tim Drake? I don't remember. Was it? I know Grayson's in there, but was Tim Drake? I don't think Tim Drake was even mentioned.
it.
And that's one of the things about Hush. They ruined it. They made. I just don't like the way they did it. I would love it if they could fix that very easily. I think they could. Plus, they used didn't they use Bane instead of Killer Croc at the beginning? Come on, Bane wouldn't do that.
Yeah, well, in one correction to you, the whole thing with Jason Todd and Hush, it was at first it was teased like it was Jason Todd, but it turned out to just be Clayface. But
Oh,
the
I know,
response
but
to that,
still,
yeah,
the emotional response to us thinking that was Jason Todd was fucking
that's the
killing.
reason
It
why he
killed
came
me.
back,
Yeah,
and that's exactly the
yeah,
reason why we got Bucky as the Winter Soldier as well.
yeah. And I
In
mean,
Marvel.
that's what I know it was Clayface, obviously, but
Okay,
and then that's why they did the Riddler with Clayface. But it's just like, come on, man. Like that was when I first read that in '03, I think it was. It just like, oh, like it broke my heart. And of course, shortly after that, we got the great Under the Red Hood storyline, which was really good.
yeah, and another thing I didn't like either was like how they replaced what was his name, Thomas Elliot with the Riddler.
Yeah, they killed him off really fast too. That was a
Yeah,
bummer.
yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, they could do better. I don't know what they're doing. If Dwayne McDuffie was around, he would have made it better, maybe. But one of my kids was knocking on the door. Hold on, I'm just gonna text him. So, but we're gonna talk about the Tomorrowverse. So, the end of the New 52 with Apocalypse War was really cool. Great way to end it.
yeah.
But should it have ended, and should we have gotten what we gotten? I guess I just don't like that they did the way the animation. Although in some scenes it looks really good, like especially in World War II, there was a couple of great looking fight scenes.
Mhm.
But let's get into it. Let's talk about Superman, the Man of Tomorrow, which is actually the name of a comic, but I don't know that it's very much based on that comic because I don't remember Lobo or Parasite, whether or not they're in the comic. But this is a story of early days of Superman where he's wearing like a flight suit, basically, and he gets his costume and stuff, and pretty fun movie overall. What are your thoughts on this one? Overall, you said it was your favorite.
Yeah, I like it, and I'm debating whether or not it's my favorite in this series, other than another one we're actually going to talk about tonight. But I thought it was pretty good. Like again, I had a little difficult time adjusting to the new animation when I first watched it. Um, but just going through it again and rewatching it again, and then just going through the entire like I literally marathon all throughout all of them last week, and
Mm-hmm.
I started appreciating the animation more. I think it does look great in some action scenes. I like that it's kind of an origin story, but it's kind of not, and how they use Parasite and Lobo. And even though Lex is in it, I really like the way that they handle Lex, where he's not the primary villain, but
Yep.
it's sort of like building up to that. I like the
Yeah.
whole idea of there's no interaction between the two in the beginning, right? It's just Lois Lane gets Lex arrested, and then Superman goes to him for help, and it was kind of cool seeing them pair up. Of course, we all know the truth of like how things are going to turn out between the two, but I thought it was just kind of cool the way that like Lex kind of was like he was like teaming up with Superman, but he still had his own thing going on, and then of course there's the whole ordeal where he takes the kryptonite for himself. But
Mhm. As Lex would
yeah,
do.
yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it's a pretty fun movie.
See, the thing I liked about it. Now we talk about Superman Legacy coming out and how it's going to be a stacked cast of characters. There's a lot of characters in that movie. But you look at a movie like this, you've got Lex, Lois, Perry White, you've got uh, Lobo, who I was really because I didn't see a trailer for this. I just watched it. I was really happy to see the main man, and then of course the main villain, if you will, of the story. Oh, and then John Jones, the
Yep.
Kents, and then Parasite. I mean, you've got a lot going on in this movie, but I thought it was really well written, and everybody got appropriate amount of screen time. And I mean, it turned. I remember watching it and thinking to myself, like, "Holy shit! This is how you set up a universe." I mean, you got Lex Luthor, like you said, not the main thing. You introduce John. They mentioned Batman.
Yep.
Martha Kent gave him a cape because she likes the way the Batman guy looks. I'm like, that's kind of cute. Like
Did, yeah. Did she say like that nice fellow from
that.
Gotham?
Yeah, yeah. And then I mean, Parasite was strange to me. It was a little bit different. They kind of turned him into a kaiju, but
Yeah.
overall, really what you see is Lex becomes the big villain at the end anyway because of the kryptonite thing. But you're distracted by Parasite, who ends up turning and saving the day for the most part. But then you get Lobo. I fucking love Lobo. I was so glad to see him pop up because you don't see him pop up almost ever. You know, when he's in a couple episodes of the oh my god, when you watch the Justice League, Superman disappears and they looking for somebody to replace Superman, and Lobo comes in and he's like, "How about me? I'll be a replacement for Superman." I just love Lobo. I got some of his first run comics because he's so cool. But yeah, it was really. I thought this was a fun movie. The voice acting for me was a little distracting because I didn't care for whoever did the voice for Clark and Superman. It was a little too soft spoken for me. I did like Lex. I liked Jean or Martian Manhunter. Those, and Lobo was really good, and Lois was good too. But Superman, when he was Clark, he was fine. But when he was Superman, he didn't really do much for me. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't hate it. It's just like between the way his voice is and then the way he's animated, like he looks, they animate him to look super young. So
Hmm.
it's a little different, especially when we're coming from before where we had
Yeah,
big adult looking Superman voiced by Jerry O'Connell.
and he was very big. Yeah. What did you think of this costume? I really dig it.
I like it. Yeah, I do.
The belt's a little bit different. I do like it in the next movie a little bit better, but yeah, I like it. I
Yeah,
like that she was able to. I like Martha is so good in this movie, and she's barely in it, but they had to go through so many saw blades to to get
yeah,
this cut. I like that little touch. Yeah, I like this. I like it. This was a good. I like that they had him not in his suit right away. I thought that was cool, and then we got to see what happened to his suit in combat. I mean, he's naked. you know I like that about this movie. There's a lot of and there's a few things that kind of bothered me, like he had no idea of his Kryptonian heritage at this point. Like he knew very little. You get to see him learn that the sun is where his power comes from, essentially. So there's a lot good. I say we didn't do the slash scores because last night and today I had all these things, but I
no,
give this a solid 80% at minimum if I had to guess off the top of my head.
yeah,
It's good. It's not the best, but I liked it, and it was a good way to start off an animated universe that is dying already, unfortunately, and not on its own. It's because of the James Gunn stuff. That's exactly why it
yeah,
has nothing to do with them like making poor movies. Because really, if you look at them, they're fun animated movies, and they're going 90 minutes now, well, close
yeah,
to anyway.
yeah.
But
They
yeah,
got
I
like
give it a 90 overall or 80 overall.
yeah, and the score. I would say
Mm,
all across these Tomorrowverse movies, the scores have been really good, almost kind of epic and theatrical in a way.
yeah, I could agree with that. But one of the things I will say early on with the animation, it looks very much like it was made for children. But so the one thing that I think that is really good for this animation I mentioned earlier is the action. Some of the action scenes. It's more prevalent in the next movie with some of the things Wonder Woman does, and even the Flash. But once you get used to it, you're like, okay, I think I dig this animation for the most part.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, so let's go ahead and move on. Are you ready to move on to the next
yeah,
one?
yeah,
So it's Justice Society World War II. In this one, the Flash, we get to meet the Flash and Iris West, and he goes to help Superman and stops a bullet from Brainiac, which that bothered me right away. It's like, oh, is in this barely, because Brainiac's the one that I want to see more of all the Superman villains. But he ends up going into the past, 1940s France, I guess is where they are, and he meets up with the Justice Society, led by Wonder Woman. Um, yeah, I actually like this more than I thought I would. What about you?
yeah. So this movie here is the other movie where it may be my favorite of this Tomorrowverse stuff. I really, really love this one. I think the action is great. I think throughout the entire thing. I mean, the final battle is just really really cool.
It was
Um,
awesome.
I like
Very epic.
what happens when Flash gets back to his world. You know, the whole thing where he crosses with himself. Yeah, I just think it was a really cool movie. The action was really cool. I like the story. I like how it was. The reveal that it wasn't actually the past, but it was an alternate
Mm-hmm.
past,
Alternate Earth.
with alternate versions of those characters,
Yeah.
including himself or including Superman. Um,
Yeah, and I want to go back to that scene you mentioned with Flash coming back to the present, and so it kind of reminded me of something that we would have seen in the Flash TV show with Grant Gustin, which is really cool. But at the same time, I also like how Superman was able to see it
yeah,
happen. He's like, "Wait, you're just over there, and now you're over." I really like his reaction to that situation, and also that is such a cool scene. And this is where the animation really does well for itself is that scene there because it looked great, that whole sequence. Um, and then of
yeah,
course he kills Brainiac with a
yeah,
Kryptonian bullet to the skull. Uh, so pretty that was a
yeah,
pretty cool situation. But yeah, Wonder Woman with her action scenes are so good in this movie. Like I was surprised at how good her action
yeah,
scenes were, and not even just her, Hawkman, and oh man, not to mention this movie had a lot of depth, and it had nobody was safe. You felt like nobody was safe, especially in that last battle. You lost Hawkman. He
hmm
died. Who else? Somebody else did. Steve Trevor. You know,
Steve Trevor.
yeah. I mean, and then
Yep.
at the very end, you're like, there, all those planes are coming. And you're like, fuck. And then who saves the day? It's like that was the thing. Me and my son was like, where's Superman? You know,
Yeah,
what were you gonna
Shakespeare.
say? Yeah, Shakespeare shaved his mustache.
Well, I love that. I love that whole moment though. Like, yeah, and the animation was so cool with him just taking
Mhm.
out all those planes. Like the animation was outstanding with the action sequence. That's why I'm leaning towards this one being my favorite of these films. Um,
Yeah, because
because I mean
the, it,
the animation and the action sequences and the
yeah.
going.
Not to mention like we don't look at backgrounds in shows and animated movies very much, but they had highly detailed buildings crumbled and all the like they didn't spare any expense in the animation room in my opinion. Everything looked great. My biggest problem with the animation in this was Wonder Woman's head looked weird, but I mean other than that, it's
Yeah,
other
yeah,
she had like an Elvis haircut almost. What do they call that? A pompadour?
yeah,
But
yeah,
Jay Garrick is great. Oh, that moment where a Black Canary takes her mask off and has a tear is such a good
yeah,
moment. There's stakes
yeah,
in this movie, you know.
yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I think this might
Totally.
be one of the very best of all of their DC animated movies. Period. It's really fucking good. You know, great story, and we get to see Superman doing what Superman
Yeah,
does. You know, so yeah, I like this one. I might give this a higher grade over
yeah,
the Man of Tomorrow, even though I like Man of Tomorrow quite a bit. Flash, both Flashes are great,
yeah,
and they both look good.
yeah,
So
yeah.
let's talk about the voice acting
There's a great thing too
because
where it's like the characters like both of the Flashes, Jay Garrick and Barry Allen, they learn from each other.
yes, which is
They learn
great.
separate things that they didn't know. Yeah,
This is why this movie here, when I was watching, I was like, this is why Seth needs to watch the Justice League show because you get stuff like this in that show, in that animated show. But
yeah,
well, I do want to talk about the voice acting because I do think the voice acting was really good. It was better in this one because it was I think either Superman, the Shakespeare Superman, was a different voice actor, or he was better in this one.
nope, same guy.
I never actually looked it up. Let me look it up.
This is the same guy.
Is it the same? Because he was better. like far better in this one than he was in the other one. But yeah, this
Well, I
movie
noticed that
really.
too. Actually, like with sorry for my delay. The
That's okay.
I kind of noticed a similar thing with Jensen Ackles as Batman. His voice acting got better as Batman after the Long Halloween. Like he appears in, um, he appears briefly. I think in wait, does he appear in Green Lantern?
I don't know. I haven't seen that one.
He was. I know he was in. He was in Legion of Superheroes, and he was in War World, of course. Um, he may have had a cameo in Green Lantern. I don't remember, but like I felt like his voice acting got better for the character too. So maybe it was just same thing with the Superman guy. We're just they
Darren
learned to grow.
Chris.
Yep.
Yeah, Darren Chris is Superman. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think it was good. One of the things I thought was really interesting is the voice actress for Wonder Woman, Stana Katic or whatever.
Hmm.
I didn't think she was gonna do a kind of like, I don't know what I'd call that accent. What do you think that was?
I don't know. It was like it was kind of. At first, I thought maybe it was like Russian or something.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. She sounded kind of Russian. Which it was fine. I mean, I don't think Wonder Woman should sound like she's from America. I mean, in most animated movies, she does sound like she's from America, like Justice League. But
Yeah.
she's just regular, which is fine for that. But like after the Wonder Woman live action movies, it's like I need to have a little bit of an accent in there for her because Gal Gadot did it so well, and then now
Yeah.
I feel like Wonder Woman has an accent, but yeah, I thought she did well. She's played Lois Lane a couple of times, I believe.
Oh,
And
has she?
yeah, I think it was in like, I'm looking right now. I think it was in Superman Unbound or something like that. I can't remember. Yeah, she played Lois in that. Yeah, because her name really sticks out.
Was she also
Stana
in?
Katic.
Did she
It's
also do a
interesting.
voice in Red Sun?
No, I didn't see. She should have.
Right.
Nope, just Superman Unbound and these two, and then Crisis on Infinite Earths, and she's going to do Superwoman's voice. Uh-oh. Um, I hope they don't give us some kind of Crisis on Two Earths bullshit with that. Yeah, but she did. I think they all did a good job. Matt Bomer, who I believe has done Superman or Batman, and did a good job as Flash. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say I saw a trailer today for Crisis Part One, and
Oh,
they do show Ultraman and the Owlman and all them from that Crisis on Two
why didn't
Earths
you tell
thing.
me it was out?
I don't know.
I had no idea. I mean, we're getting close.
Yeah, I saw because there was an announcement today of the digital release date, which is like January 9th or something like that. Hey, girls, you should be in bed.
Was it a clip or was it the full trailer?
It was a whole trailer. It was new.
Oh man, I'll have to watch that after. I wish I would have known going in. That's okay. I had a day anyway. But yeah, I think Justice Society, World War II. That's another thing I like that they highlight the Justice Society over the Justice League, which is really cool because you don't see that very often.
Yeah.
I like this one. I highly recommend it. Probably mid 80s somewhere, maybe even a little bit higher. If we're gonna do the rating scale for the next one because I got busy last night obviously and you weren't feeling great and then today was just a nightmare for me. Um, but yeah, what do you think overall for this one? If you had to just throw a number out there,
I would say probably high 80s, maybe early 90s, because I can't think of I can't really think of too many dislikes with it. I remember watching it last week for the first time and just like enjoying every minute of it.
Yeah, I missed. I didn't watch this one. I watched the first like 15 minutes of it or so, maybe a
Mhm.
little bit longer, because I got to where they met with Shakespeare, and Flash was like, "You look familiar." And I'm like, "Shakespeare? Who the hell is that?" Like, and then you find out later, of course. But yeah, I dig this one. We'll definitely have a score for this, because when we're done, we're gonna rank them. But I think when we rank them, Crisis on Infinite Earths is gonna be one movie, so we're gonna wait till after that. So 2025 probably. Because are they gonna release all three of them next year?
I thought so. I
They
thought that
have
was
to
the
if they're
plan.
gonna have James Gunn stuff taken over. Because next year's when it starts, 2024, with the Commandos thing, the dumb looking, obviously James Gunn
Yeah,
thing.
Creature Commandos.
Yeah, I have zero interest in that. This is why James Gunn was a bad idea. He's too weird. I'm nervous about. He's got Metamorpho in his Superman movie. Why?
Yeah, I'm not really too thrilled with having all the superhero cameos for it. Like I feel like it should just be a Superman focused movie,
Yeah,
focus on
it
him
may
and
be.
supporting characters.
Do you remember in Hush? I think it was Hush when Tommy and Bruce saw Green Lantern when they were kids. Remember that?
Yeah,
Maybe it's
yeah,
something like that. That was the first thing that came to my mind. I hope they're not all working together or something. I hope it's something along those lines. Um, but let's go ahead and move on to the next one, which is should be my favorite, Batman: The Long Halloween, which was split into two movies, and which makes sense because it's a very big story. I read this book every single year since I first read it years ago in the '90s. I've read it every year since, so I know this book backwards and forwards. And I cannot tell you how disappointing this movie to me, like big time disappointing. I knew they were going to mess it up, especially after I saw Hush. And the one cool thing that I can walk away with is there are times that they stay very faithful to the story, but I also like the opening credits that have panels from the comic and in the movie. But other than
yeah,
that, I you know how I feel, and I know you don't like this, but Jensen Ackles is not a good Batman. His voice is not good as Batman. He's got this asshole sound to him, which I don't like, and he's always had that. I mean, you watch Supernatural, and Dean's got this asshole arrogance thing about him a little bit, especially early on, and it comes through in his performance in this for me. And it's like all I could hear is Sam or Dean. It's like, oh, they should have got somebody else. But I don't know, and I don't like this is where the animation for this universe fails for me, because the animation, I mean the art from the Long Halloween comic, Tim Sale, my favorite artist, is so unique that like that was
yeah,
one of the things I was worried about, was were they going to be able to keep that same tone, and they were not. There's a couple things like Jim Gordon looks like Jim Gordon from the book, but Harvey Dent, I don't like the voice actor. I don't like the way they treated Alberto Falcone. Um, he, jeez, there's a lot of problems with this. If you're a comic book fan, I don't know. Have you read the comic for this?
yeah. I have.
Okay, so what are your thoughts? Because I could go on and on in my problems with this. I turned it off because I was getting frustrated with it the other night, and I had to finish it in like little sessions.
Yeah, so like I'm not like as familiar with the comic or anything like you are. Um so when I watch it, like I watch it understanding that they made changes. Um I was a little surprised because I thought they were going to do something similar to the Dark Knight Returns, where the animation sort of resembled the Frank Miller art with that,
Yeah,
which I thought would have been kind of cool to do with the Long Halloween. Um, I think overall it's okay. I think some of the action is decent. I think
Hmm.
the voice acting doesn't bother me. Um, I I think I was watching like part two, and just the way it starts off, I was kind of getting bored with it.
Yeah.
I think I think part one was better paced. Um, but I thought it was decent. Those are not my favorites of this universe, but I don't overly hate them either. Um,
Yeah, I mean, it's hate's a strong word. I can't say I hate them. It's just if there's no possible way for me to take myself out of the comic book because I'm so familiar with it. Like I said, I've read it backwards and forwards for years, and sometimes more than once a year. I have a worn out copy that is just falling apart because I've read it so much. Um, there's
Now
like,
it's been a while since I read it, but
go ahead.
sorry, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't it Alberto who was the original Holiday Killer? Was
One of
that
them, yeah,
what it was supposed to be?
yeah,
And
yeah.
then they just
And
kind
they
of
killed him. Yeah, they just it's
yeah
they Jason Todd them, or they did Tommy Elliott basically. They're like,
yeah
Alberto, and then I don't understand. Like I like within the dialogue, one of the big things that bothered me immediately is they'd skip over Johnny Vidi's wedding at the beginning. They just gloss over that with Bruce and Carmine Falcone just talking. And there's this great scene with Catwoman or Selena Kyle and Bruce dancing the night away at Johnny Vidi's wedding, almost forgetting about who they are. And they don't even do that. Like the whole scene is it's hot. And people will say it's not as hot as the night of Johnny Vidi's wedding, and they end up dancing. And it's after that whole meeting he had with Carmine, where I believe in Gotham City, which should have been the first line of the movie. Also, it is the first line of the comic. It should have been the first line of the movie. That bugs the fuck out of me.
yeah
And there's a scene where Batman's chase. I think it's Thanksgiving, and Batman is chasing a guy, and he ends up going into the sewer where Solomon Grundy is. Okay, that happens in the comic, but there are no ninjas and karate fighters at all. It's like, what the fuck did they add
yeah
this in here for? It's
yeah
interesting enough that the guy had no idea he was running into Solomon Grundy in the sewer. No, Batman's got to fight some fucking something stupid. They did that same goddamn thing in Under the Red Hood. Just added another fight for no reason. I hated that. I hated. I was watching it. I was like, nope, turn it off. This was after I'd already seen it once. I forgot all about it. It's just little shit like that that bugs me. They killed off Carmine. They made Gilda way more crazy than she was in the comic. Harvey Dent's wife. I hated Harvey
yeah
Dent's voice acting. And the roof scene is one of the most integral scenes of all time in Batman ever, with Harvey Dent, Jim Gordon, and Batman, and they fucked that up somehow. Like they just they messed it up. I mean, they did a better job of it in the Dark Knight. So I mean, there's one scene they could have done so easily when they all agree on everything. It's a low angle shot of all of them standing kind of in a little circle, and it says they say agreed. They didn't even do that. It's like, why couldn't you have done that? You could have done that in animation. It's not impossible. It's like
yeah
the thing is like when you're dealing with a movie or making a movie on a book that is widely loved for comic book fans, especially Batman fans, and you leave little things like obviously this it just wasn't handled with care. It wasn't. And I would have liked to see a different voice actor play Batman, and I would have liked this to not been part of the Tomorrowverse. Like you said, the Dark Knight Returns. It should have been a separate thing on its own, like an event. Like the Dark Knight Returns was an event when that came out for me. It was like, yeah, this is they're making it just like the comic. I mean, he had that big square jaw, and when he put his suit on for the first time, he was bigger than he'd ever been. It's like that's how he was in the comic.
hmm
And the Long Halloween, Hush was forgivable in many ways for me. It was, but the Long Halloween, this is unforgivable. It's a travesty, and I know you love I love Jensen Ackles too, but he's the worst choice for Batman's voice, in my opinion. He did a great job as Jason Todd. I thought that would have been perfect to have him be a character like that. He's got more of a bad guy voice, in my opinion, than a good guy voice. But that's just my opinion. I'm not a big fan of this one. This is in the mid 50s, if at best, for each of them for me, because they were, and like you said, the second one was kind of boring, and the Gilda, uh, they treated her poorly. And I wish they would have done, if they would have done this, they could have done Dark Victory, which is an immediate follow up that takes place over the course of a year. And it's the same Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. Great book. I've read that as much as I've read The Long Halloween. I'm stupid. I read those books too much. I
I
could say more fun
wish
stuff.
that they. I wish that they, because I agree with you that it shouldn't have been part of this Tomorrowverse. I think the Long Halloween is so complicated and so dark as is. It should have been its own separate DC movie for sure, but not connected to the series the way it is. Um, so I kind of wish that they found a different story to tell to introduce Batman to this Tomorrowverse world with this animation. Um, I can't think of a specific story off the top of my head. I mean, they could have done the whole. They've already kind of done it in animation.
What's that?
Um, uh, Death in the Family
Why not Nightfall?
or Nightfall. Nightfall would have been great.
They
Great
could
to
have done
see.
No Man's Land. There's a lot of things they could have done. No Man's Land,
Yeah,
the great Gotham earthquake. They could have done something like that.
yeah,
I mean, I don't know what they could have done to set up Batman. Death in the Family, probably. I don't know that they've done that twice now, basically. Uh,
yeah. I thought about that after, but
yeah.
because well, my mind was going to like a more like comic accurate. Where
Mhm.
Jason Todd's looking for his mother, and
Yeah.
you know everything happens there. But yeah, I mean, I No Man's Land, that would have been a decent one to. I mean, because you would have to. Well, I don't know. To start off with Batman, I mean, you could have him be already established.
Which he
Um,
is here. I mean, Long Halloween is year 3 for Batman.
yeah,
Uh, and then one of the other things I want to throw out there about not just this, but in general, is I would have loved to see either a Trinity movie or a Batman and Superman movie sprinkled in here. There's a great comic called Trinity with Ra's al Ghul as the villain. He manipulates Bizarro. I don't know if you've ever read it. It's uh, oh god, I can't. Matt Wagner, I think, did the art and wrote the story. It's really fun because he makes Ra's al Ghul makes Bizarro feel like they're best friends, and that's where Bizarro gets the Bizarro #1 name tag thing that he wears. I think that would be great, especially for this animation. I don't know why they are not even thinking about doing the Trinity story. Fun story, um, and but it's probably again James Gunn with all the stuff he's got going on. I'm so disappointed that they're doing that. The DC animation stuff has really done well over the years, and now it's just kind of like James Gunn. Come on, man,
yeah,
leave it alone.
yeah.
You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
it's funny because we do get a Trinity movie, so to speak, but it's fucking Warworld. So
Yeah, I talked to a guy I work with today, and I told him that we were doing this, and he was like, "Just don't get too excited about Warworld." I'm like, "That bad?" He's like, "Yeah, just don't get too excited." And he's like, "Watch Invincible instead." I was like, "Yeah, I need to I need to catch up on Invincible for sure."
that's
So, but I don't know. I'm gonna watch Green Lantern. You said it wasn't too bad, and I'll definitely check out the Legion movie. I've never been a fan of the Legionnaires. I do like Supergirl, and then the War World movie, and then we're gonna next year, January, like in a month, we'll be watching the Crisis movie, Crisis on Infinite Earths. We'll see how they fuck that up because I have a feeling they're gonna really. I'm gonna reread that. I read it years ago. I borrowed it from a friend, but now I have the trade myself, so I'm gonna reread that just to refamiliarize myself with it because I haven't read it since the mid 2000s, probably closer to 2009 when I read Watchmen for the first time. But I'm excited to talk about those other three movies, Green Lantern, Legion, and War World, next time. Next time we do this, whenever that is, maybe next Sunday or Monday. Who knows? Because the Horror
Yeah.
Syndicate discourse isn't coming back till the new year, maybe. So I don't know what's going on. Um, but yeah, this was fun. I'm glad we got a chance to talk about these movies, these three at least so far. We do have ah, there are seven total, I guess it is, since the Long Halloween was separated into two movies. Um,
Yeah.
if anybody who watches this is familiar with the Horror Syndicate, we are doing an American Werewolf in London in 2 days. Are you ready?
I was born ready.
Yeah, yeah, I'm ready for that one. And then Paris the following week, and then Lord of Illusions and Life Force should be a good time. But
Yeah.
anyway, anything you want to say before we jump off here for the night?
Yeah. Just a couple things. One for the next run that we're gonna do, I would at least be cautious with expectations, because I think the Green Lantern one is really, really good, but they do play with some of the mythology and some of the events that happen from the comics in a way that I'm not sure if it'll make you upset or not, but just know that they do take major changes. They do familiar stuff, but there's a lot of changes to it. Um,
Yeah, I'm keeping that in mind for sure.
yeah. Two, as I mentioned earlier, I think Jensen Ackles does much better as Batman in the last couple movies that he's in, as opposed to the Long Halloween. So, give my boy a chance, all right? And
I like Jensen Ackles. I'm not a fan of him as Batman. I don't know who ever came up with that idea. I don't get it. Was it because he in that Rabbit's Foot episode of Supernatural, he's like, I'm Batman. Is that why?
well, he's a huge Batman fan. He's a huge Batman nerd. So I think
Well, he
he's
should have known better going into this then if he's a huge Batman nerd. I know he dressed up as Batman and everybody's like, he should play Batman. Live
he's my
action,
choice.
no.
He's my choice.
He'll never be my choice. He I liked him in The Boys. He was good in The Boys. And Supernatural, of course.
Yeah,
What's the deal with the Supernatural? Are they bringing it back?
they hinted at it.
That's weird. I don't know how it ended, but I feel like that's weird.
It well, let's just say without spoiling anything, not even Jensen Ackles was very happy with the final episode with the way that they wrote things off. And really, if you stop and think about it, the episode beforehand, season 15, episode 19,
Mm-hmm.
was the perfect ending, perfect way to keep things open for them to come back. But then they do some stupid shit with episode 20 that kind of like tries to say. I mean, it's emotional, but it pisses me off
Maybe
because I mean, even
maybe it'll be like General Hospital and it'll be just a dream.
well, I had I think in one of I think I wrote an article on Supernatural on the site, and I mentioned how it could easily be written off as like, oh, it's a fever dream from a jinn showing them what things could be
Mm.
like, you know, and perfect explanation. And then just skip over that last fucking episode and continue, because the thing that annoys me about it is like when they announced that they were going to be ending the show, both of them were like, this isn't a permanent goodbye. Like, we do want to come back. We just want to take some time to do other projects and spend time with our families. And then the showrunner does that bullshit. Um,
What
I know
bullshit.
you're like several seasons behind, but
Dude, I don't know if I'll ever get caught up.
I'm thinking about rewatching them soon. whenever I'm done with my Superman kick that I've been on.
Well, don't get off the Superman kick too soon because if we are able to do this the next batch next week, we'll have about a year before we get to talk about the last our part three of this. So we can go because this is I think I titled it part one. Yeah, part one
Yeah,
for tomorrow. I made my own little title, which is actually based off a Superman story, um, which Jim Lee did the book, art in the book. But we come back and do another batch of movies if we want animated stuff, or do a Superman the animated series uh, top 10 episodes or something like that. That'd be fun actually, because
yeah,
you'd probably be done. You burn through shit so fast. You
yeah.
probably you'll probably be done with the animated series tomorrow. No.
I've been so consumed with Superman stuff because like it actually started last, I don't know, what was it, like March or whatever, when
Mm-hmm.
Superman and Lois season
Mm-hmm.
3 premiered. And then when Superman and Lois season 3 ended on that amazing episode with Doomsday, I was like, I thought you watched the clip
I did, but I don't want to know too much.
because I'm an asshole and I sent it to the group. Um,
Well, no,
but
it's
like,
not even just you. It's autoplay on fucking Facebook.
yeah,
It started playing. I see Superman. I'm like, oh, what's this? And I saw it anyway. So it wasn't even you. It was stupid Facebook.
yeah. But like, and like right after that, I jumped into. I've been slowly getting through
Smallville.
it with Amber, but the Lois and Clark, the New Adventures of Superman with Dean Cain
Oh
and Terry
wow,
Hatcher,
wow.
and then I paused that and I jumped right into Smallville,
Mm,
marathoned all 10 seasons of Smallville, and now I'm going
well,
through like all the animated stuff and going through all the movies again, and yeah.
no, the animated stuff's
So I've been on
good.
a kick for almost a year.
That's good. Keep it going because it feels good. Like watching DC animated stuff. First of all, I always end up reading comics too, but like seeing it, it's like where was this when I was like 8 or 9 years old? I mean, I'm glad we have it now, but at the same time, I wish it was around when I was growing up. But there's a lot of good stuff, man. There's a every year at the beginning of the year, I start with the animated series and work my way through Justice League for the Bruce Timm verse, I guess is what you call it. And a lot of times I'll
Yep.
watch. If I don't know if you've ever seen it, the Batman, which had 5 season run from like 2004 to 2008, I think. Pretty good. Superman's in the
Never
last
saw that one.
season. It's pretty good. I like it. They're like 13 episodes, I think, in each season. Um, it's definitely a product of its time, but you get different takes of the Joker and Penguin and Catwoman. They all look really cool. I like the voice acting in it. Good theme songs. You get a cool different kind of Batgirl and Robin and stuff. Black Mask shows up, which is fucking awesome. They ignore Two Face again, which they do that a lot apparently. He's my favorite Batman villain. At least he got his dude, in the animated series. But even in the 1960s Batman show, he didn't show up. It's like,
Yeah, I
come
know.
on, give my boy some love. I know he's got a fucked up face, but come on. But yeah, I mean,
He's
I
always been
love
my favorite.
watching stuff. Hmm?
So he Two Face has always been my favorite Batman villain.
He's my favorite. Yeah, me too. I think a lot of it for me, I'm a Gemini, and I always have two minds of everything. So that's why I
Same,
think, yeah.
same here.
And Batman Forever was a shame. I like Batman Forever overall, but Two Face in that movie just Tommy Lee Jones. Come on, I would have rather seen William December Williams play. Billy D. Williams play as Two Face. Did you know that's his name? Full name: William December Williams. Billy D. Williams.
I did not know that.
Yeah, that's his name, William December Williams. What a great name.
That's
This is
weird.
why he's a legend. Anyway,
Yeah.
so hopefully, yeah, maybe Monday or Sunday we'll come back and finish this batch of movies, and we'll come up with something else. Maybe top 10 Superman the animated series, because Superman the animated series never gets any love, and maybe we can give it some love because I like that show.
Yeah, it's
So
only 3 seasons.
Yeah, it's not long. I'm gonna thumb through and pick out some episodes that I know. The Metallo arc is really good in that. Uh, there's
Hmm.
a couple of Lobo episodes in there that are really good, and of course, towards the end, it gets really good. Like season three, I think is when it gets really good. Plus, you get a couple cool characters to come out of there, like what's her name, the Electro girl. I can't think of her name all of a sudden. Lori Petty does her voice. Holy shit! Anyway,
Oh yeah,
some
yeah.
I
Um,
can't think of her name.
it's hold on. What the fuck is it?
Shockwave? No, that's somebody else. Why can't I think of her name?
That's a transformer.
Yeah, is that a Transformer? Is that
Um,
Livewire?
so,
Livewire. It's a fucking Motley Crue song.
Livewire. Yeah.
Yeah, Livewire. Anyway, and I like her character in that show. There's a great Supergirl Batgirl team up against Livewire, and I think Poison Ivy later on too. But yeah, it's pretty good. Good stuff. Anyway, any last thoughts before we jump off this bad boy? I put my children to bed.
No, I hope to do more of these. I
Me too.
hope to talk more DC stuff because I love it.
We
So
need to make more time for being geeks.
we do. We
Yeah.
need to finish our Superman series. We only have what, two movies left?
Yeah, Superman the movie and Superman 2, I believe.
Yeah.
Maybe let's see if we can get through this next one, and if we can go on, maybe we'll do those two to end the year if that works. 'Cause actually, I don't know because I think Sunday nights are maybe we can do the no, I don't know. I don't know now because the Christmas and New Year's Eve is coming up and shit. We'll have to figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. Maybe we can do a daytime. Do you think you could do a daytime episode?
Um, maybe during the weekend.
Yeah, well, that's fine. Like maybe a Saturday or something before the holidays. Well, actually,
Hmm.
that's Christmas Eve. Jesus, we'll figure it out. We'll figure something
Yeah.
out. So anyway, anybody who does join in later on, we didn't really have anybody viewing, which is fine. We just wanted to do this. Please hit the subscribe button on the Rage of Razor page, and check Retro Outsider out on Facebook. We do have a website, retrooutsider.com. By the way, you Seth can write articles all day long about Superman if you'd like for Retro Outsider, and we'll start sharing that stuff around since the Horror Syndicate is not doing great at website views right now. We just passed 100 for today. Usually we're about 500. I don't know what's going on. It's frustrating. Anyway, anybody that watches, please have a great night and check us out next time as we do part two. Seth, you have a good night. I'll see you. Maybe I'll make an
You
intro for
too.
this.